Councilmember Gomez, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Absolutely. Ready, salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Can we have roll call, please?
Mayor Velasquez.
Here.
Councilmember Clower.
Here.
Councilmember Gomez.
Here.
Councilmember Friend. Councilmember Luna. City Manager Avera.
Present.
City Attorney Ravella.
I'm here.
You never know. Chief of Police Westrick.
Here.
And City Clerk Graves here.
Okay, thank you very much. Verification of agenda posting.
The agenda for the City of Hollister meeting of June 20th, 2016 was posted on the bulletin board at City Hall on June 17th, 2016 at 3:40 p.m. per Government Code Section 54954.2.
Thank you. City Attorney, anything you want to report out from closed session?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Velasquez. At this time, there is no action taken during the closed session at 6 o'clock.
Thank you very much. We'll move forward with the consent agenda. Are there any items council would like to pull?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to pull item number 1, 2, and 6.
Item 1, 2, and 6. Are there any other items? Are there any items from the public?
Yes, sir. Item A3, A4, A5, and A6.
Okay. Is there a motion?
So move.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Move forward to item A1. Councilmember Luna?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to bring to the attention the minutes that should reflect actually what has been taped on CMAP, and according to our commentaries. I call to your attention item number 12 in the minutes, and I would request that City Clerk correct my response on that item for the next meeting.
Correct in which way?
Correct the commentary or that is documented in the minutes on how I responded to that item.
Item 12 was the Vets Hall?
Resolution, right, 2016-74. That's the Veterans Memorial Building.
Can you be a little more specific?
Well, yes, it states that I said to make sure to the city manager that it doesn't happen again.
Yes, ma'am.
And that is not what I said. And I went back and looked at the tape, and heard the tape and saw the tape, and that's not my comment.
Oh.
So I would just like to have it corrected.
Sure.
Okay? Thank you.
Okay. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item A2. Councilmember Luna?
Yes. During the last meeting, I wanted to pull the May 27th warrant register in the amount of $268,216.18, but since it wasn't on the agenda, it had been given to us in the packet, but it wasn't on the agenda listed, so therefore we could not discuss it. And it was just a clarification that I needed in regards to the air show. And it was because of cost of performances that totaled over $12,724, I believe. And I just wanted someone to clarify that amount, and also were we within the budget for the air show?
Yeah, the air show budget is about $50,000
Okay.
per year.
And it's just being cautious that, since we've gone in the red before, we just wanted to make sure that we were not, actually overspending. And that was my concern.
Okay.
Okay. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Move forward to item A3 from the public.
A3 is an item brought up by Mr. Keith Snow, who wants to know if a solution has been found.
Is Mr. Snow here tonight?
Well, me, right,
There you are.
we get insurances and the businesses. Like I said before, governments and all you guys, I guess found a solution. Then I guess the solution to prevent the prevention of losses against the city, so we make it better corrections. Mayor, thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Item A4 from the public.
A4 is an item by Mr. Snow, who said we need to take control of our city on this item.
And what I mean by, see, when you guys put things on the agenda, I know what's going on. This, if you guys okay this, right, as for shame to our city, saying to you guys, the council, we're paying $9,000 a year for 3 years for St. Goose 911 calls. This major cut that we need to make, in which we should put that to get guys' attention. We hire more police officers, more firefighters, and I know West Communications. I know all kinds of things that when over there they work for Santa Cruz. So the point is right. We should stand up as our city and time things up. We make cuts, and this is a guy that we not to go on spending spree, send $9,000 for 3 years, for 1 year, every year, for the last 3 years. So Brett over there on the budget before this year, and I mentioned before, I put letters in the paper. If you guys okay this, then that's against you guys. It is Mayor, you, Vice Mayor Gomez, like I said before, we had to make that cut. So on an easy matter, Bill, we should do that, Brett. We should stop this spending, take control of our 911s, not hire, strain the sea of Santa Cruz, but we're weak. So if you guys go ahead and okay this, shows me that you guys don't care for our city, to our creation, we hire more firefighters and police officers. So I want to see what input you got, especially making and you got an all, I guess. And the government, you guys should not go against that mayor. You should, as leader and bear leadership, you guys had not do this and not go on doing this. We should make better judgment. Do that. So that's all I have to say. So you guys want to go okay? Did they go anything else? Couldn't do it. But people told me on the emails in to me come to today to tell you guys this as a public servants. Do a better job and take control of the city.
Okay, Mr. Snow, just for clarification and information you should know, by working with Santa Cruz Regional 911, we're actually saving $300,000 a year, and we've been doing that since that happened in 2011, and it's saved the city quite a bit of money, and it's probably one of the reasons we've been able to hire more officers to help protect the schools. So it's been working very well, and I just want to make sure you understand clearly, again, the public understands that this contract has been saving the city $300,000 a year. Okay? Thank you, Mr. Snow. Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you. Is there... Thank you, Mr. Snow. There's a motion?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Move to item A5 from the public.
An item by Keith Snow, who writes, good idea on this item.
So a good idea. And I feel when you said earlier, it's wrong. That's not true. What you said to me right now, that's very disrespectful as a citizen. People told me to come here to say that you're not saving money, you spend a lot of money. $7,000 is a lot of money. People the last time we just talked. So I want to pay your attention. That's bad judgment. You're not saving money, you're spending money. $7,000 is a lot of dinero. A lot of jobs in creation.
Mr. Snow, what topic are you talking about?
About 911 call.
No, I'm sorry. This is another item that.
I know that.
Okay, well, we have to stay on the item, Mr. Snow.
I know.
Do you have a comment about this item?
No, I say go on and go do what you can do.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item A6, Councilmember Luna.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to call this to the attention of the council that, it's streets will be closed for the rally, but I think the prior notice to the public is so very important. Otherwise, we do receive the calls that they didn't know certain streets were closed. We may know about it, and people that watch on TV, or CMAP may know about it, but getting it out to the public, what is the procedure or process that will be taken to inform the public that these streets will be closed?
Well, according to the municipal code, it's the police chief's responsibility to do that, but if he requests my staff's assistance, I'll get my staff out there and we'll go to every building and knock on the door and have a personal conversation with each one.
And I thought, and maybe in the media, maybe we can let somebody know to make sure that it gets in there before July 4th?
Sure. If assistance requested, we'll go ahead and do some press releases out of my department also.
Right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we had a comment from the public also.
A comment from Keith Snow, who says he agrees to the rally.
Yeah, I agree to the rally, and I want to get with OT by the time emails for businesses that the band the bars goes at 11 or 12 or I think 11 o'clock. You guys to make sure and change that ordinance to whatever you guys doing and make it to 8 in the morning out of bars too close because they lose thousands of dollars. So think about like John's Grill and all the rest that has open. Do you guys overthink that as a council? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other speakers? Okay, is there a motion?
Motion to approve?
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We'll move to public comment. Members of the public may address the City Council on any matter within the City Council's jurisdiction that is not on the agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person with a maximum of 30 minutes per subject. Speaker cards are available in the foyer and are to be completed and given to the city clerk prior to speaking. State law prohibits the City Council from discussing or taking action on any item which is not on the agenda. Do we have speakers?
Yes, sir, we do. Our first speaker is Maudie Bell. You could go right up to the podium there, ma'am.
It's okay.
Hi, my name is Maribel Ramos. Oh. My name is Maribel Ramos, and I'm here to speak for the homeless, and I myself am homeless. And by being homeless, I end up picking up garbage, just doing it, just rarely, just out there, And by getting bags and it's really hard for me. I was just wondering if you guys could help out. Like, you guys have the bathroom out there on the river, leave me some bags, because I do pick up the garbage, everywhere downtown, anywhere I could go, but I do put them in bags and I do put them in the edge. And I do tell the city that I had left him there, you know, and I left him a note saying thank you for, you know, for helping out, you know, for just being there. You know, I do leave him notes, and another thing too, I see people pick up garbage, then that makes me happy, you know, because I'm teaching other people that, you know, to clean up the area of Hollister. So that's what I'm doing, and this is my first time being here, and I'm excited. But I feel better because the mayor is here, and I do talk to him. The homeless, you know, I take time, like 2 minutes with them. I just have a conversation with them, you know, teach them what's right, not wrong, you know. I'm an alcoholic and an addict, and I'm trying my best to stop. So I keep myself at the shelter at Linda's, and I keep myself busy instead of just thinking about the drugs, you know. And so I stay there all day, you know. I clean up. Linda's been helpful. She's been helpful for me because she's there. And by the grace of God, I got the Bible, and I started reading it, and I haven't let it go. So it's like he's there for me right now. He's changing me right now. And he's the only father that I have, you know. I have my dad, but he's at the convalescent home. He's doing good, you know. My father's doing okay, you know. I went to go visit him on my Father's Day, and he was happy. You know, he's alive, you know. And, yeah, so that's what I do out there. So if you guys can, leave me bags and gloves or water, anything you guys can, you know, just help me out too, you know. Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Ramos.
Next speaker is Keith Snow.
What is that sign? Sign for we need to develop loans, people. And right there it tells you right there, wins by God. We need to pray for loans. We pray for the people. We bear bins fundamentals, best concepts, bins, and how, what are you going to do by next year? Be close. We need better plans as fellow servants. And one thing that gets me, I mean, that's kind of breaks my heart, how you say saving $10,000. Your aspect of how we do business in our city, and we're losing money. We're spending other cities, other communities, not that low contract. Law contracts we need to do, break. But we don't awareness. Or see, we're weak in our city. You have your own aspects and city manager and all that, but council right there. But I know for a fact, electric, I know for a fact, for $79,000 a year, that's a lot of dinero. We should take control, or see, eating garbage. We're losing out. We're not straining our city. All you guys do when you okay things, no shame you guys came okay with that. Like, no, there's not today and not today. Not back we spend. But we know we don't do. We don't protect the taxpayer. Hard worker out there. Not people that work every day. So, like I said, like, for example, Mitch P didn't pass. You know why Mitch P didn't pass? Because I wrote letters and like, what's it called? Like, here goes, do you feel good about that? We lost $1 million for word. Yes, I do feel good like that, because for a fact, even yesterday I went to convince people on right there at Dodgery. They told me that we wasteful as city and can't have no ideas. I help people and the taxpayer protect them. That's why they pass. No, I do feel good. I do feel good. I feel 1% good. And when she comes up here, I've been voted for no permitry. That's how I feel. About the people that write to me, that send me emails, make me feel good about myself. I am what I am. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Snow.
Julie Vieira.
Happy Monday, everybody. I just want to remind everybody that this Thursday is the Saddle Horse Show Parade down San Benito Street. We love our parades. So it starts at 6 o'clock. It is a team effort. Everybody is involved. So Chief Westrick's going to be there. Our city attorney is going to be there checking everybody in, making sure everybody. Ray Friend is supposed to be one of my judges, so hopefully he is in town. So we hope to see you all out there and enjoying the parade. Yes, it's going to be warm, but we do have shade, and there are restaurants that you can get sodas at, and afterwards you can go and have something downtown. So please join us.
Thank you very much.
No more speakers, Mr. Mayor. Oh, wait, I do. Sorry. Gilbert Resendez.
Roland Resendez.
Roland Resendez.
Yeah.
Sorry, I lost your card.
It's okay. I'm just going to read a quick statement if I can. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. My name is Roland Resendez, and I'm a Hollister resident. I'm here to ask you to place an advisory vote on the November ballot. I believe that an advisory vote on whether the 400 block should stay as an open space for a public plaza or developed into residential and commercial buildings would help you to make a more informed decision about the future of our downtown. I believe that a majority of the citizens of our community want to see the 400 block remain as an open space so that it can be used as a plaza for the people. The citizens have been very vocal about not wanting any condos or empty retail space at that location. By the City Council placing this issue on the ballot for November, it would save the city from having a costly special election. It would also allow for the public's voice to be officially heard on this issue. Please itemize this issue on the agenda for the next City Council meeting so that it can be placed on the November ballot. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other speakers? All right. We'll move forward to item D, City Manager's Report.
I have nothing to report at this time.
All right. Item E41. Who's Facility
David?
District?
I got to catch it.
Good evening. This item is an item that we talked about at the last meeting where we established a public hearing date and time. And so this is for the approving the reimbursement. Go to the right item. This is the item for establishing the future annexation area for the City of Hollister, CFD number 2, and levying a special tax within the future annexation area. What we're asking is that the city open a public hearing and hear the public hearing and then read by title only items, concerns regarding this CFD number 2. Any questions?
Okay. Any questions from council? Councilmember Clower?
Okay, so my main concern when reading this is on page 190 of the agenda packet. It is where ordinance number 1135 and then number 5, letter C. This portion goes into the process for appealing the levy of the special tax. If somebody thinks that it's been levied incorrectly, I don't know how often this is going to happen. It's probably very rarely. But I don't like the language at the end of letter C where it says, the manager's failure to timely mail a written decision will constitute a decision denying the appeal. So pretty much if the city does nothing, then it's a denial. And I think that's kind of part of the problem with government in general, is that if you don't get a response, then you're denied. So I hate that line. I don't know how that is legally or what we can do to fix it. I'd like to say, well, maybe 30 days isn't enough for us to do it. Maybe it's 45 or 60, but we're going to give you an answer no matter what, whether it's a yes or a no, or if it's always no, it's always no, but we're going to say something, not just not say anything.
Okay. Defer to city attorney.
We could certainly take that into account, your comments, and evaluate that change. In most situations, when you're dealing with rulemaking authority of the city council, failure to act within a certain period of time is usually governed by whatever provision of law is at issue. For example, in the Permit Streamlining Act, the government's decision-making authority failure to act within a certain period of time is deemed an approval, although there's a lot of case law out there that kind of have pulled the rug out from underneath that rule. Likewise, with the city council's own consideration of administrative claims, failure to act within 30 days is deemed a denial. So we can check. Off the top of my head, I don't know if this provision is mandatory under the scheme, but we could double check that. And if it isn't, what is the preference of the city council as far as what you want it to say?
I don't know what everybody else would want, but if we need more time, we need more time. But doing nothing to me isn't an option. And if this was me appealing it, I'd be really mad to find out that the 30 days were up. I came back down to check on it, and then they say, "Oh yeah, your 30 days are up. It's denied." I think it at least warrants a response. And where I was coming from was the Streamlining Act, where if the government doesn't do anything, then you're essentially approved, which I think puts the onus on the government actually doing something, which is a good thing.
Is anybody here from DFA? Okay.
Okay. Do we have any other comments from council? No? At this time, I'm going to open public hearing. Do we have any speakers? No speakers on this item? City Clerk? No? This time, we'll close public hearing.
So is this something that can be checked at second reading, or what?
Well, what you may want to do is, or just make a motion that we check into that and give you some language that may be more appropriate. That just
are we able to move forward with the rest of it?
We should, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So that motion sounds like a move to approve resolution number 2016-91
and direct legal counsel to look at items 5C related to the appeal period for staff or for the city to respond.
Do I have to say it, or can we just go off that?
That's fine.
Perfect. Thanks.
So moved.
I think you have to read by title only and waive full reading.
That as well.
Okay. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Move forward to item F51.
Hello, Mayor and council members. Sorry, I went kind of quicker. So I'm here to kind of summarize after our budget hearings, the final budget that we've come up with. And I'll make sure it's working. Sorry. There we go. Just a quick reminder that the budget is a financial plan of expenditures. I having fun with this. Tom, can you? Oh, there you go. And that move forward. The staff strives to maintain quality essential services to the citizens of Hollister. As a result of the continued local funding, the city has been able to continue to provide and restore the school resource officer. Additional officers are in this budget. Police and fire reserves, additional CSO, improvements to the parks, and continuing the soundwalk cleanup. Plus, we are presenting another balanced budget where our revenues and our reserves equal our expenditures. Plus, we are also doing reserves, still have healthy reserves of 23% in our general fund. Monies for economic reserves of $700,000. Plus, we're starting up the capital replacement reserves and the rainy day reserves, which is a very good thing to keep a healthy city. Can you? Yeah, thank you. I give up on that button.
Can you step back for the capital replacement reserve? Are we identify that by different departments, or how are we trying to sort that 100,000 out?
Actually, what we'll do if you adopt this budget, we'll bring back a policy to actually set where we think the reserves should be and how we pull them out and replenish them. But we just want to get started with that. Okay, thanks. The general fund is what we focus on the most. The special revenue funds, capital improvement funds are used for specific items, so we always just focus on the general fund. The general fund provides the funding for the essential services of Hollister, and then we use the recent independent research surveys of the residents where we are working on this budget to ensure the city and the city council's priorities for the budget reflect those of the citizens. The general fund will also help maintain the rapid 911 emergency response times, all the current fire stations, improvement to the roads, and attracting qualified police officers and firefighters, preventing the cuts to the youth gang and drug prevention, maintain the water conservation, youth programs, and then also retaining and expanding and attracting businesses to Hollister. You can see by the revenue chart that our revenues have continued to increase. The orange bar is the 2015-2016 budget. Our projected revenues are in the green bar, which exceeds those the budget. And then what we're budgeting for the next year is more than what we have this year. And the main piece on that one, you'll see on the next slide, is with the council wanting to finance new fire trucks, we do have issuance of debt, which kind of makes it a little bit higher revenues. So this is a breakdown of our revenues. You'll see the other is the transaction tax, Measure E, and then also the bottom is our other taxes, regular sales tax, property tax. Is where we get majority of our revenues. Expenditures, once again, what we've done, we've shown you that the blue bars are what our operating expenditures are, and then the red is our one-time monies. And our kind of our base expenditures have slowly increased, but I think at a very appropriate rate. Tom. Go ahead, Tom. Sorry. Here's the expenditures by category, by contractual services and supplies, personnel, and capital. And most of that capital are the fire engines that council recommended. Go ahead, Tom. There's a breakdown by function. As you can see, police and fire are major items that we spend from the general fund because we like to protect our citizens. Next thing. Here's the number breakdown, and then the full-time equivalents for those, and then percent of the budget. Go ahead. Sorry. This is a comparison of our revenues in the green line to the expenditures in the red line. You can see we're balanced for 16-17, 15-16. There's a difference because our revenues came in higher than our expenditures during 14-15, and we recommended using those excess funds to pay down our side funds, which has been reducing our expenditures. But you do see once the Measure E runs out that our expenditures will exceed our revenues. And we'll talk about that more in the future slides. Now, during the budget meetings, we talked about using one-time monies for one-time expenditures, and this budget includes the detective vehicle, network equipment replacement, structural firefighter clothing, mobile radios for the fire, police station furniture replacement, the WatchGuard video system, evidence software, evidence shelving, blood drying lockers, still gets me every time, and the drawing filing system. And then also we're going to continue the staffing for the silent wall maintenance, and then we'll do community center improvements, recreational software upgrade, fleet and park chemical storage and floor repair for safety, fuel system and pump upgrades, animal shelter improvements, and then, like I said, we're the $100,000 each for the rainy day fund and equipment replacement. And then finally, we said the 4 new fire vehicles, which will be offset by a lease, so that we pay it out over the next 7 years. And then one of the questions were for the senior discount, which we've included. There's 393 senior discounts that we do. Continuing the contribution for the library, and contribution to the HDA Chamber and Office of Education, which will pay out of the Economic Development Reserve. Park upgrades at Dunn Park, and then the balance of what's left of the one-time monies will go to the side funds, $877,000 out of the general fund, which will match that with the enterprise funds also. With the side funds, we'll still have another just under $2 million. But what we'll do the same thing is that we'll, when we finish the year, we'll bring to you what that difference is, what we're above our reserves, and make our recommendation to the council. And we usually do that end of August. Try to get a rough number by end of August, beginning of September.
Side funds. So just so we're clear on this, from the other portion, from the other funds, will be matching.
Correct.
Or are they going to go ahead and pay their section off, or their portion off anyways?
It makes it really difficult for us if we don't do them equal.
Matching.
Yeah, because one will have a different rate than the other, and it's just a accounting nightmare for us. And then in the budget, it wasn't one-time monies, but that is 2 more officers, an animal control officer, 2 part-time CSOs, and a record supervisor. Then in the other funds, some of the expenditures I said is the, let me switch, is the, I can see you just left, Valley View Park from park improvements, and then equipment replacement. These are that goes with the general fund monies, ADA ramps and sign reflectometer, and then crack filling machine, the thermoplastic striper, so that with those items it would be cheaper for us to do it internally. The fire impact fees for the down payment of the fire trucks, hydro excavator, and then, like I said, the matching of the side funds. And then with local funding, we want to always remember in recent years, with the help of local funds, Hollister has become a community where the people desire to live and raise families. Without the continued local funding, the city will be forced to cut approximately $4.5 million, about 20% of the general fund revenues, which will impact essential city services such as public safety, street and road maintenance. And then additionally, we have not heard yet, but from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, that we could potentially lose 12 firefighters. And then with the continued local funding, that will help us with the 911 response. Operate all current Hollister fire stations, maintain and improve local roads, attract, retain quality police officers, prevent the cuts to the youth gang and drug prevention, water conservation, youth programs, and then attract businesses. Okay, so if we continue to measure E out, that would be the blue line, which is above the red line, and which then we can continue the services that we have been. So it gives you kind of a visual what it would look like if we continue out. And then I would say we have right now a very healthy general fund. I remember when I first started here, those numbers did not look like that. So, like I said, we have a 23% reserve. We are now putting away for rainy day fund, equipment replacement. When we want to go to probably new fire engines, we would like to have the money in the future. And then, so total available fund balance is $5.7 million if we had to use them. Okay, I was tasked with working with the department heads real quick to come up with a CIP plan. This is a living document, can be changed at any time, but we wanted to have something to go with the budget so that we could see what the fund balances or working capital for the enterprise funds look like at the beginning of the year instead of in the middle of the year. So this is for the fiscal year 16-17, we have about $4 million in projects. The overall 5-year projection for our projects is about almost $16 million in projects. So with that, you can see where the fund balances go across. Sorry, it's small. It's trying to get all the funds in there. You can see that the general fund is about $55,000, and then on down to the parks spending in this year, gas tax, and then if you can switch, and then a lot of them are in storm drain projects, about $2 million there, and then in the water and sewer, some projects also. So our budget is approximately about $49 million. So that's, which is on average where we've been the last couple of years. And then staffing we still, as of right now, losing those 12 firefighters and picking up the 5 in the police and animal control, we would have a reduction of staff of 7 positions for a total of 138.5 staffing. Any questions? Okay.
Do we have any questions? Councilmember Clower?
I think you did a really great job with the budget, and I appreciate staff getting the CIP out because it's been a long time since we had one to even look at.
I agree.
And I'm sure this isn't probably not a finalized CIP.
We would finalize these expenditures, but if you want to change the projects throughout the year, we can bring that back to be revisited.
I guess the main thing that stood out to me was we spent, some of us more than others have spent a long time this year talking about the roads, and with Measure P and raising the traffic impact fees, and I think there was a grand plan that was put forward by a couple of people on this council who did a wonderful job, and it just didn't play out exactly how some imagined. So when you look at the CIP and the roads and the streets and roads part of it doesn't have anything for streets or roads. It's a parking lot, it's street trees, and it's beautification. Do we have any plan to spend any money on street improvements?
When we put this together, Measure P was still out there. So, I mean, we got the results after we prepared the document, so we were kind of waiting to see what that results were before we even tackled the streets. It's kind of hard to plan when you're not really sure what the money that's coming in.
But do we plan on going back and identifying some projects?
Yes, we'll revisit it.
Okay. That was my main question. The other thing I saw on the CIP, which was interesting, was that in the parks portion of it, we were looking at putting a lot of bathrooms in.
Correct.
And I know we had talked about it at certain parks, and I guess I'm not 100% sure that it's necessarily a great idea to put them at all the parks that we have them going in at. I think some of them are probably more important because of the other facilities that are on site already. But I just want to make sure that we'll be able to maintain 5 new bathroom facilities when I think the general public probably feels that we struggle with the 2 we have. That's it.
Okay. Any other questions from council? I have the same concerns. I saw it kind of looked like we took conversations in the past that we never really went into detail with and just plopped them in as a capital improvement plan. And I think we need to step back and understand what the plan is rather than just trying to put in some numbers. And also the waste, the treatment plant. Saw some numbers in there as far as the drying beds, and we went through this conversation about there's already a position out there that we're not using but we're paying for. We need to pull that out of that budget, that additional person. And why are we going to do the drying beds if we chose to remove sludge last year for a much lower cost than it's going to be to maintain or run the dewatering portion of it? And also, if we had looked at the different technologies out there now, we could avoid the whole mess. So I'd rather we understand what we're trying to do rather than just kind of have placeholders in there.
That's fine. I mean, we can bring this back at a later date, but at least you get a kind of a visual idea with where the budget is and kind of what we kind of estimated for projects. So it makes it, hopefully makes sure the budget, operating part of the budget, an easier decision.
Okay. Councilmember Luna?
Just a clarification on the page 9 under general fund revenue by major category. Uses of assets. Can you elaborate on that?
Assets is like a rent. We rent the alleys, or interest income is the use of assets for our money that's sitting in banks or in CDs.
That seems to be pretty low. Yeah.
Interest rates are real low right now.
Right. Okay. So what you just mentioned to us in regards to the capital improvement plan, the total amount is $15 million. So in the allocation that you have here, that you came up with, at any time can, like facility improvements, $685,000, if there was actually some of that funding that needed for the streets, at that any time, and you bring it back to us, can that be changed?
The council can change the budget at any time. So yes, that's the feeling of the current council or future council, then it can be changed.
Yeah, because there's just a real major concern right now regarding streets in the city.
And the other thing I forgot to bring up were the streets. I mean, with the budget, we're requesting the crack sealing machine. Also kind of want to see how much that can get done, how much that improves things. So that would help us with making the plan for the streets also.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, do we have any speaker cards?
Yes, sir. The first speaker would be Bob Martin.
I'm, if you're not aware, I'm the chairperson for the Measure E committee. And it's from that position that I would like to address you. First of all, I'd like to read 2 paragraphs that appeared in the original document for the Measure E. And that was, shall an ordinance be approved enacting a 1% sales tax for the purpose of funding general city services, such as police, fire safety, gang intervention and prevention, recreational programs, streets, parks, and maintenance. Further on it said, you should also require an annual review and public report on revenues and expenditures by an independent citizens oversight committee, which is what I represent. I would like to call to your attention, though, the final oversight committee is you people, because you have the vote and you have the right to approve what expenditures are going to go forth. Our concern is to your position as it relates to expenditures that could not exist without Measure E money. And specifically, there are 4 items that you have in your proposal, and they concern items that we believe are probably practical and probably necessary at some point. But nevertheless, they wouldn't exist if you didn't have Measure E money to do it with. Having already experienced your give out to nonprofit organizations at the beginning or at the end of last year, still within this fiscal year, we question then whether or not those monies should at this point be given to such as the chamber, the Downtown Association, even to the library, are creating a reading program, which looks like you're attempting to fund. So we question then the fiscal responsibility that you have to maintaining Measure E monies. And our other concern is that your action on this year's budget will go a long way to deciding whether or not you'll be able to pass the sister ordinance that you're seeking in November. Because if your action's taken wrong, you're not going to get the vote that you need to continue on. It's not that this committee, it happens to believe your money is needed. That 1% is needed. But you could be jeopardizing your own position and your own need for that just by the action that you're taking. And so we question doing it at this time with monies, again, that could not be there if it wasn't for Measure E. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other speakers?
No more questions.
Okay. Any other comments from council members? I've expressed my concern about some of those other dollars. Whether we like it or not, I think the part of the Measure E was approved with the Oversight Committee in mind, watching over how we were spending those dollars, making sure we were using them the best way possible to keep from having layoffs or diminishing services. These are all good programs, and I know it's we can say it's coming out of a different fund, but at the end of the day, it's coming out of the budget. So I do feel the same way, and I think we have responsibility to the voters to keep our word. And I'd like to see those items removed and see what else we can do to work with some of these groups to we know they're important groups, but we do have a responsibility at the same time, a promise that we need to keep. Any other comments? So I would, well, is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor, before we do that, are you suggesting modifications that could be brought back at a later time for adoption?
I think we should look at it at a later time, yes.
In the past, we've been doing it usually for nonprofits or the chamber at our mid-year, or we can do it also as part of when we finish up the year. It's an option also.
What I would like to see is, if we are going to ask the taxpayers to continue with this, that it's clear to them that what we're trying to accomplish, and place those items in there so it's not something that they don't know about. It's clear we want to make sure we're covering some of these other programs that are extremely important to the community. And I think it's been said here many times, we can't do that work that they do for that dollar amount. There's no question about it. But I think we have to ask those voters out there how they feel. Let us know how they felt about the roads. I think it's going to be important to make sure we're up front with them on how we're using these dollars.
Are you suggesting adding language like economic development? Is that what we're talking about?
Well, I don't want to go into that discussion as far as ballot, but
I mean, we're kind of in a position where
I understand. I'm just saying about this budget, these dollars today.
Are there items that you're suggesting should be removed and or tabled to the mid-year budget review?
I do agree the chamber and the HCA do provide economic development to us. I could see those dollars being used there. I think there was an additional $25,000, I believe,
Office of Education, correct?
And I know that's a very important program, and hopefully we can find a way to raise funds so they can accomplish their goal. But I would say if we could remove that portion of it, I would be fine with the economic activity from the chamber and the downtown association. Councilmember Luna?
Yeah, it's, thinking back of all the discussions we had, and I believe we spent like 7 hours here on the budget.
Yeah, that seems
and
right.
We had every opportunity to bring this up, and we had quite a few people from the community, the city, residents, organizations come forward. I think what they had to present was extremely important to City Council and to city residents. I don't know where we'd be without some of these agencies that are actually bringing the community together, helping children in the community, especially read. I think we are in a situation, and Brett, you can agree with me on that a few years back we were not here.
Correct.
And we are definitely improving. We're definitely moving forward, and we have not made cuts to these agencies that have been there along our side with the city, moving this community forward. I see in the future the interests of the economic development coming in. I've spoken with several people, even out of the area, corporations, that are looking at Hollister. We are a growing community, and we start cutting back. And I realize that the voters do take that in consideration, but the voters are also part of our community, and we work together. So I can sit here, and I'm not prepared to cut anything out of the budget that we took. We took 7 hours to discuss, and that we came forward in agreeing that this would come back to us on this date. It could have been, I think, sooner, but no, we waited to this meeting. So I cannot sit here consciously and say that I want to cut agencies that are helping us, the city, on what we do today to succeed and who we are today. So I really see that sometimes you do an investment when you help an agency because it comes back to you. And I really want to believe that. And I really want to move forward on it. And that's my comment, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Yeah, just really quick. So I think originally, I think it's still in there now, but originally we proposed for the that specific funding, HDA chamber and so on to come out of our economic development reserves. Is that correct?
Correct.
So that revenue actually was not created by any sales tax.
Correct.
That revenue was created by the sale of a property.
Correct.
Correct. Okay. So we are not using general fund revenue, or let me use another phrase. Yeah. We're not using general sales tax revenue to pay for those for that funding of those organizations.
Correct.
The only reason it's being used at the general fund is because that's exactly where the money went to for the sale of the property, right?
Correct.
So let me ask the question. We have internally a set aside for the economic development reserve, correct?
Correct.
So we know if that fund is being depleted or added to. Correct? Okay. So those actually wouldn't be part of a Measure E or any future sales tax expense, correct?
Correct.
Okay, that helps. That helps. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Any other comments? Is there a motion?
Sorry, I can't make one.
I'll move to adopt resolution 2016-88 and 90.
Second.
We got 88,
Question on
89.
the question on the motion.
Well, I'm leaving out 89 on purpose.
Okay.
Because I wasn't ready for it.
Okay. Councilmember, you have a motion?
I second
Councilmember
it.
Luna seconded.
Second it. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No. Motion carries 3-1. Vote.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Regarding the capital improvement plan, is that or the CIP? Are we coming back at a future date with modifications?
Yeah, we'll
to
probably
that?
bring it, I'm guessing the August 1st one's going to be pretty full, so we'll probably bring it in the second meeting of August.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
The projects aren't going anywhere.
Thank you. Move to item 51A.
Okay. Item 51A is a resolution approving a supplemental budget appropriation for the 15-16 fiscal year. The reason why this is coming to you today is because of the accelerated construction schedule for the new membranes at the domestic wastewater treatment plant. When this item was originally approved and the amendment number 4 to Veolia Water's operation contract for the wastewater treatment plant, it was approved with the whole project was approved, but at that time we appropriated $750,000 for the 30% that was required as part of the contract for the basically is for GE to start construction of the membranes, with the anticipation that in August, maybe late August, early September, the remainder of the project would have been done, and we actually would have been constructed and installed. However, GE had been anticipating this project. They actually got it turns out they actually had the membranes scheduled, and they were able to construct them, ship them, and they were actually installed last week. Therefore, the expenditures is appropriate for the 15-16 fiscal year for the completion of the project. This week we're starting the testing of the membranes. One of the great advantages of this is that we'll start seeing the energy savings 2 to 3 months earlier than what was originally anticipated. So with that, the supplemental budget appropriation of $1,750,000 is requested so that we can finish paying for this project. So again, the City Council obligated the contract for the installation at an earlier, actually it was on April 4th, City Council meeting.
Okay. Are there any questions from council?
What's the balance of this fund at the moment?
Be a guess. Can we get that to you next week or email it to everybody?
Can you give me a guess of like a couple $1 million one way or another?
One way or the other?
Do we have a lot more than 1.75 million?
But what we did is when we refinanced the obligation on the sewer treatment plant, we did hold back some money for this particular project. But as Brett's fairly conservative, so there's at least probably $1 million in each fund. So there's an enterprise account, and then there's an impact fee account that goes with that. So.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Is that about right? Yeah. Thank you.
Do we have any speaker cards?
No.
Okay. Is there a motion?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Move to item 52.
Okay, this item, item number 52, is a resolution of the council that would be approving amendment number 2 to the professional service agreement with Development and Public Finance. There's 2 tasks related to this amendment number 2. The first one is task number 1, which is the preparation of a special tax report. This is what gets submitted to the county tax collector's office, the assessor's office, for actually placing the CFD number 2 and number 4 dollar amounts onto the tax bill. Task 2 is to produce the annual reports for CFD number 2 and number 4, which is an important item for these community facilities districts, so that we are we have total transparency on these documents.
Okay. Are there any questions from council? Do we have any speaker cards?
No.
No, sir. Okay. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
The motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Move forward to item 53.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This item before you is just authorizing the city manager to execute contracts with other law enforcement agencies as it relates to the Hollister Motorcycle Rally.
Okay. Are there any questions from council?
Yeah.
Councilmember Clower?
How certain are we on the educational guess of the financial impact?
Within $1 million or $2 million?
It's not going to work on this one. You'll need a little tighter.
Within 20 grand or so? No, as we have stated, we understand, staff's understanding of the rally as a whole is we try to make this thing as fiscally neutral as possible. In years past, we tried to keep the budget around that $160,000, $180,000 to $200,000, or at least recently, with the amount of money that's been under contract with various promoters over the years. This year, unlike the other years prior, is that we discounted the promoter's fee quite a bit in hopes of making up dollars in other areas, but we recognize right at the very beginning that our law enforcement costs don't usually change from year to year. And it's probably likely that the expense for the rally is probably going to still be in that area for the city, at least of around $180,000. And so again, that's the number that the police department and fire department and actually all of staff tries to aim for or shoot for to make sure that we have a safe event, which is first and foremost to us.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Do we have any speaker cards?
No.
Okay. Is there a motion?
So move.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Move on to item 54.
Thank you.
So item 54 is a resolution to award, accepting bid proposals and award a contract with Dalian Construction for sidewalk and street improvement project CIP 1410. This project was earlier approved, the plan specifications. We requested bids be submitted. On May 24th, we received 3 bids. The lowest responsive bid was from Dalian for the amount of $543,422.47. There was the 2 other bids was between the second middle bid was $811,000. plus, and the highest bid was $963,000. The engineer's estimate was at about $355,000. With that, money's being made available through the CDBG, Community Development Block Grant Funds, plus we're utilizing the approximately $100,000 that was budgeted in the 15-16 fiscal year from Fund 101 for sidewalk projects. That gives us approximately $350,000 for this project. With the bid that we received, one of the items that we were going to put in was there was 44 curb ramps or ADA ramps that were identified. Unfortunately, those curb ramps came in much higher than what we expected for a bid item. They were the total of $250,000 for those ramps, which were about $6,500 for each ramp. We estimated that the ramp should be about $2,000. So there's a great expenditure there. Within the bid documents, the city council has the option to delete a bid item or bid items as necessary without any. If you choose to delete an item, Section 3 of our standard specifications for changes of work does not apply. It explicitly says that in the specifications. And so with that, we're going to recommend that the City Council exercise that option, remove bid item number 5, which is the ADA ramps, and award this contract for to Dalian Construction with having a 10% contingency allowed as well, for it be a total expected expenditure of about $325,000, which is less than what we have available. If the City Council desires, they can choose not to exercise that option, but there would be about $250,000 that would have to be identified from another fund. And in this case, we're probably talking general fund expenditures. So it's our recommendation that that section be, the City Council authorize that or exercise that option to delete that item. If that item is deleted as requested, the city staff will bring a project to the council to repair the curb ramps, remove and restore curb ramps as appropriate once funding is available. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Okay, Councilmember Clower.
Is there any mechanism for different entities, engineering departments, to share data based off of the bids that they receive? I asked this question maybe last year or so. I know it's hard to pinpoint what we're going to get back on a bid when you do that engineer's estimate.
Right.
But it just seems like there's got to be enough public information out there to where we could pull from Salinas doing these or Gilroy doing that.
Well, we do that. We'll ask. We use the data that we received as well. We also are restrained from available funds that we do have for certain projects. In today's bidding climate, 3 years ago, bidding was very good for government agencies. Contractors were just bidding as low as they can, sharpening their pencils really good, so that they can keep their workers employed. This project, we received a bid from this company out of Bakersfield, being the lowest. Wattis Construction, which was the highest, is a company that works in this area quite a bit, works for other utilities and other agencies doing this type of work. So what is reflected in this particular bidding climate is that if you're busy, you can just throw a number out there, hope that you get it. If you get it, great, you just made yourself $400,000. If you don't get it, no harm, no foul, because they have enough work to keep them going all summer. So that's what we're seeing. And you know, if you look around just Hollister, you'll notice that there's a lot of projects ongoing. Well, this is just Hollister. If you go to the agencies outside Hollister, you'll notice that there's just as many, if not more, projects going. There's only a limited number of contractors, limited number of workers, and so, you know, it's a supply and demand. If there's a lot of demand for construction work, you're going to get a lot higher bids. We try and utilize realistic numbers. In this case, I was thinking $2,000 for an ADA ramp would be appropriate, and had that number came in, we probably may have asked the City Council for a supplemental budget appropriation to fund these ramps, but at $6,500 a ramp, it seems kind of unrealistic to expend that kind of money.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? I'm actually surprised too, looking at these costs of $9 a square foot, when I know concrete work out there in the private sector is more at $5.50, $6 a square foot. But it's a government premium price.
Yeah, and they are paying prevailing wage, so that,
Yeah, right.
that is a factor that
Right.
goes into it.
Councilmember Linda, did you have a question?
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have any speaker cards?
No speakers on this item.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, is there a motion? we have been winning this project for quite a while. So I'll make the motion for approval. Is there a second?
Yeah, I don't think you can make the
I don't
motion,
think-
so I'll make the
Sorry.
motion. I'll make the motion
Somebody
to
needs to-
adopt Resolution 2016-97.
Motion is second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Move to number 55. This is a item I think that a lot of the people here are waiting for. So why don't we do this? Why don't we take a 5-minute break? It's going to be a long discussion, and then we'll resume the meeting in 5 minutes. All right, everyone, we'll resume the meeting. We'll move forward to item 55.
That's me.
You're on.
I'm number 55. That's Tim Lincecum's number, I think, isn't it? Thank you, Mayor Velasquez. Paul Ravella, City Attorney. I'm just going to go give a little background, and then I've not been really heavily involved in the development of this draft ordinance, so I'm going to rely a lot on City Councilman Clower, who's on the ad hoc committee with Councilman Friend, who did the bulk of the work on developing this ordinance with stakeholders and staff members. As you know, the Medical Marijuana Regulation and Safety Act took effect in January 2016, which essentially was a statewide effort to create a licensing and oversight system for medicinal marijuana throughout California. There used to be a March 2016 deadline for local governments to establish their guidelines for oversight and regulation of medicinal marijuana uses, but that was lifted by Governor Brown in February. So what you have before you is a draft ordinance for the first reading that is somewhat flexible, that would allow for various uses relating to medicinal marijuana, such as dispensaries, cultivation operations, manufacturing facilities, testing operations in certain restricted areas throughout the city. It's a dual licensing system for not only landowners, somewhat akin to a conditional use permit type of an entitlement, and then for users or operators as well, there'd be an operator license as well, because sometimes the two are not necessarily the same. And so it's staff's intention to give the City Council an opportunity to review this ordinance, to discuss it, to take comment from the public so that we can refine it and fine-tune it and have a final ordinance ready for the next meeting, which I believe is August 1st. And so I'm available to answer any questions. We certainly would love to get input from the council and from the public.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions from the council? All right, well, let's see how many speaker cards we have. So many, our city clerk ran out the back door. Anytime he's ready, we'll...
Is it okay if I start off with a question?
Well, there you go.
Tom returns from his break. So just really quick, regarding the fee structure, when do we anticipate that coming back to council? And I'm assuming that has to be probably adopted either with or before the ordinance is adopted.
Yeah, and that's kind of one thing I skipped over in my presentation. But yes, there would be a fee structure that would be adopted. It would similar to the city's impact fee schedule. And one of the things that we are requesting is that, in addition to reviewing and taking comments and considering this ordinance as it sits here tonight, is that you authorize the city manager to seek a request for qualifications for study of the costs and impacts that this system will have on the city, so that you're probably going to need that information to develop the fee structure and the actual fees themselves.
Makes sense. I have a few other questions. I'll wait for public comment.
Okay. City Clerk.
Yes, so the first speaker is Luke Brenner.
Good evening, Mayor, honorable council members. My comment will be very, very brief. I believe your ordinance is on an excellent trajectory. You're seeing the evolutions between drafts. In many cities, you don't have the level of collaboration I think you're seeing not only among stakeholders, but among the city staff and other places, trying to figure out what's a good solution to place Hollister where it wants to be and the community wants to be for the future of cannabis. As this evolution continues, there is a matter that I think is very important related to the medical nature of cannabis. So often in California, we look past that because it gets caught up in other issues. But being a medical matter still, privacy is very important. And somewhere within the text of your document, I hope the appropriate balance can be struck on privacy. If a patient's name is on a mandatory receipt in a bag, which is a good practice, alcohol has to be bagged up when it leaves the store. It has to be in a bag. That could have a negative impact on that person. You're still able to have consequences at your employment situation, even for being a medical cannabis patient. It may impact somebody's child custody situation, even though they may have particular matters like PTSD or what have you. And then in the inspection of records, in most places, cannabis patient records, the particulars of who the patient is often considered a matter covered under HIPAA. So even though we should require all these records to be kept, normally the city would not go into a pharmacy or doctor's office to look at the particulars of the patient names. This is such a small matter compared to the progress the ordinance has made, and the fact that we're looking at how do you fine-tune this detail for patient privacy so early in the process. I consider that a promising sign. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much.
Taylor Rodriguez.
Honorable Mayor and council members. My name is Taylor Rodriguez. It is my goal to open the first licensed and permitted medical cannabis dispensary in the city of Hollister, which will be named Haven. I'm a recent graduate of CSU Monterey Bay with a degree in business entrepreneurship. I'm the first member of my family to graduate college. I'm proud to return to my hometown, having gone to grade school here and high school, to open a family-run dispensary business with the support of my father, Brent Rodriguez. I believe your subcommittee and city staff continue to do an excellent job engaging with the stakeholders and producing an excellent written document thus far. Some increased clarity about the language regarding edibles relating to dispensaries. For instance, is a county health permit required for a dispensary to sell prepackaged edibles? In addition to how packaging is intended to work, is a brown paper bag sufficient, opaque type of packaging, or is something more needed? Patient privacy is critically important in medical cannabis. Patients can suffer social stigmas and other consequences if it's discovered that they are medical cannabis users. Would it be better for the community to not require the patient's name to be attached to the cannabis receipt? Thank you for hearing my comments. I hope to continue to engage in a positive and professional capacity and present the best face possible for the future of cannabis in Hollister and in San Benito County. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much.
Sean Donahoe.
Good evening again. Hello, Mayor, members of City Council, and City staff. Thanks again. I'm just going to echo some of the comments from earlier tonight already. I absolutely agree that there's a real solid trajectory. That's a sign of a good collaboration between both industry stakeholders as well as, I would say, community stakeholders, as well as city departmental stakeholders and the members of the subcommittee. It seems like when I get up here, I give updates from throughout the state. Might as well do that. Some of the other parts of the state are starting to recover from stumbles. Previously, City of LA is finally starting to fix some of their problems that they've had in the past couple of years. It looks like they're going to the ballot to update their comprehensive system. We're passing regulatory streamlining at the state level with the governor's budget trailer language. And in my city, the city of Oakland, we're also tweaking our ordinance that we just passed in early May. So I guess the message here is in many other cities, they've passed things before fully thinking it through. And I don't think that that's what's going on here in Hollister. I think we're doing a very deliberative process where there's a good line of dialogue all around. And I'm not anticipating any sort of stumbling to be recovered from later. I like what's being done now. I would absolutely point out to some of the privacy provisions that make sense in terms of protecting patient privacy. Perhaps a little bit might be added regarding manufacturing of extraction specifically. It looks like we're looking at a situation that happened up in Santa Rosa last week. We're one of the most exemplary and transparent operators in the whole state that had 36 of the top level regulators, as well as quite a lot of legislators come and tour through. And in a matter of a couple weeks later, there was a raid because of a disgruntled employee, and because of the nature of the health and safety codes, extraction is not yet totally acceptable if a solvent is used. It's really sticky. They're attempting to amend that in cleanup legislation right now, but at the end of the day, after the raid happened, they held the operator at the facility on a very, very high bail, and then they released him within 36 hours with no files charged and no bail charged. So, even Santa Rosa, even Oakland, even big cities like LA are stumbling, but I hope that given the sense of togetherness that's being done in this current conversation, that we can avoid all of those stumbles. So that's about all I have to say. I look forward to looking at the fee study as well as start looking at the application process. Thank you. And I can't believe I used up all the time. Sorry.
Thank you.
Steve Ludwig.
Good evening, Mayor, Council members. It's good to see you again. I just want to say a few words about how the progress is going. It looks like it's doing very well. I just wanted to say a few words about the development agreement and the fee structure. I was hoping that perhaps a tiered system could be developed so that not only the size of the facility, but the type could be investigated. So, for example, whether it's a dispensary or a collective or a manufacturing site, each of those types have different timelines in how that they operate. So if you're going to cultivate, that means that your timeline is a little bit longer because you're you're going to grow. But if you're dispensing, then that means you have a shorter timeline that you can make a deposit. So the development agreement should be fair and mutually beneficial for both the facility and the city, and also the residents, of course. And so we'd like to talk about various options of how we could make that work so that it works for everyone. And that's about what I have to say. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Steve Becerra.
Good evening, Council. My name is Steve Becerra. I'm a downtown business owner in the 700 block of Samuel Street and a city resident since the late 1979. As a downtown business owner, I'm concerned that nothing in the ordinance addresses off-street parking requirements for potential dispensaries. The downtown district, unlike the other areas that you plan to allow dispensaries, is not well suited parking-wise for this type of venture. Dispensary customers are going to need short-term parking, both normal and disabled, for themselves and or caregivers, and long-term parking for employees. As you know, in our downtown parking corridor, it's already a challenge. Sometimes my employees and myself park a block and a half away from my office. Why not address the issue up front and do what they've done like in Santa Cruz and mandate parking similar to the standard of retail pharmacies that require a business to have a certain number of off-street parking spaces available at on the location based on square footage of structure. Greenfield requires a parking plan for employees, visitors, customers, and deliveries. Now, this is also a safety issue. Should a dispensary open downtown without secure, safe parking in view of security, the patients could be subjected to walk a block or more from the site after they obtain their medicine and possibly accosted by someone who wants to take their medicine from them. Second, nothing in the ordinance limits the number of dispensaries, cultivation, or manufacturing locations within the city limits. A large number of communities across the state have placed a limit on the number allowed within their jurisdiction. Up front, the City of Santa Cruz, in the city limits, 2. City of Salinas, 3. The ordinance as written says only that you may limit the number. Why wait for potential legal challenges when you turn down an applicant while approving others? After you approve a set number, the other qualified applicants can be on the waiting list as your ordinance dictates. Based on our community size, I think 1 would be sufficient. You could later increase this number if need be. And also, in section 5.42, number A, or letter A, your language says, your language of no cooperative or collective operated medical marijuana facility shall operate for profit. It's now gone. I guess my question is why? And I will send some more comments, but I just noticed also that, and we're talking about medical marijuana, but on your new document, the last whereas, there's a big paragraph there about in the event of adult use marijuana act is passed, and basically saying that if it does, you're going to allow these medical marijuana cooperatives or enterprises to sell recreational marijuana. And I just questioned that. I have some other comments, but I'll send them off to you in email. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
There are no more questions, Mr. Mayor.
Got to say, you guys are a pretty mellow crowd here. Are there any comments from the council members?
I do, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Gomez?
Yeah, and before I continue, I do want to thank Ray and Carson for all their work on this, and obviously city staff as well. So if we do make these changes, if that's the desire of the council, to make sure that we're addressing any potential privacy issues and all of that good stuff, we would be going through a revised ordinance and the first Monday in August, correct? And then moving that to the second reading in the second meeting of August. And then it would be adopted 30 days after.
30 days.
Yeah, great. Okay, just wanted to get clarification on that. Regarding the profitability, obviously it looks like the state will eventually move to that anyway, but do we have the ability to make sure that that those that are operating in a nonprofit status can move their status to for-profit at some point when that does arise? Would there be any issues with that?
I believe that came up. I think we saw it. I think we saw some guidance from the Attorney General's office on that. And Carson, do you remember, by any chance? I don't want to put you on the spot. But
we tried to look into the future as much as possible on this, and that's why the nonprofit portion of that was dropped.
Mm-hmm.
But there's still language that says that they have to abide by the current law. I don't think we solved the issue of the entity change.
Okay.
And that was brought up a couple times, but we couldn't come up with the language in time to be able to say you can have one transfer. I know that was one of the things that was asked for. I appreciate the kind words of everybody saying we're doing well. It's a difficult ordinance to put together. I don't expect that we're going to include every single thing that's going to happen in the future. Even probably in the next couple of weeks, things will come up. I know I'm sitting here taking notes based off what everything that you guys are saying, and I mean, there's just things that we can't necessarily think about. So we're trying to get there. I don't know whether the council is going to want to move forward with this and then change it, or we wait again and then fix it later. Or
well, that was the one thing I wanted to clarify. I just with Councilman Gomez's question related to timing. So the way it's agendized is this can be the first reading, and obviously you can make some minor modifications to the ordinance. And I think, like City Attorney Rivera said, is that we were looking at adopting a fee schedule by resolution, or the fees that we can adopt by resolution without going through a 218 process at the second reading. I mean, that was sort of the original schedule, and that second reading was going to occur on August 1st.
Okay.
which then 30 days later would become law. If you want to have another sort of introduction or first reading on August 1st, let's not project into the future right now, but there are always going to be little things that come up.
Yeah.
But little things we can always add during this next period of time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a good point, and I appreciate that. Yeah, and I did recognize that it is agendized for action. So, maybe if we do move forward with ordinance as is, I would probably request a 6-month check-in, maybe in January, to see if we need to make some revisions to the ordinance as adopted.
If I can, Councilman Gomez, I just wanted to address your initial question, which was whether or not the for-profit or the what the status was on the for-profit versus nonprofit. This version of the ordinance does not address that. It's silent on that issue. We did seek counsel from the Attorney General's office, who told us that they only work for the legislature, much like we only work for the City Council. And so we contacted Assemblyman Bonta's office, who apparently has a bill right now that's kind of got some language in it that might be addressing this. And if anything, we're requested them to contact the Attorney General's office on that particular issue. But it might be moot if his bill, if the Assembly member's bill proceeds.
Yeah, interesting. Last time I checked, I thought we paid their salary. I guess apparently not. Apparently somebody else funds them. So back to my original point, I think regarding the fee schedule, one thing that I think we need to keep in mind is, we're not trailblazers here. We're not necessarily doing something that's completely new now, right? I mean, we have plenty of other cities nearby that have already adopted similar ordinances, or to a certain extent, regarding cultivation and manufacturing and dispensing. So one thing that one thing that I just want to make sure that we take into account is these operators are currently would be generally operating as nonprofits, eventually as a for-profit company, but more than likely. We need to make sure that we keep those private sector goggles on. As you put together that structure, as we evaluate the impacts that it'll have on city staff and so on, we just need to make sure that we incorporate fees that are fair. Hollister isn't the only city that's going to be looking at adopting fees like this, and if we think we are, we're fooling ourselves. We just need to make sure that we adopt fees that are going to be reasonable, and that we can move forward with, to an extent, having a competitive edge over other communities. And so I just want to make that point as well. So I look forward to hearing more from my colleagues. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Luna.
Yes, I listened to the speakers tonight, and I really would like for us to have the opportunity to include some of their comments in regards to privacy. I know how important that is. And I really believe that what Steve Becerra was saying about parking, I don't think some people really are thinking about those things, and maybe we should just include some of that wordage in there. I have no problem other than that. I don't have any problem with us moving forward, as long as we can have the opportunity to be more inclusive of some of these recommendations. That's my comment.
Okay. Councilmember Clower.
Yeah, hopefully I'll be able to give a little bit of background on where some of these changes were coming from. The first one is the fee structure. I think that's probably been the most contentious item in conversations with people from the industry. And honestly, I think I can speak for Councilmember Friend, is we don't know where we should be yet on the fee structure. We've poured a lot of time and effort into the ordinance and getting it there with the idea that the fee structure was going to have to come after, and it was probably going to be a step up over time. I tend to agree with Councilmember Gomez that I don't want to price this out to where we're not going to get any job creation. To me, that's one of the most important factors for this. Another thing that goes with that is we looked at capping the permits, but I don't think anybody can necessarily say without actually testing it how many the city would need of each permit. I'd like to have the market decide that. If it's 2 dispensaries, if it's 4 dispensaries, I think we'll find out within the first couple of years. I didn't want to be in a position where we capped the manufacturing or the cultivation, because that's, I believe, where our job creation is going to be, especially in the cultivation. So I don't want to say we can have 3 permits and then the 3 operators only have 5 or 10 employees apiece. I think that would be kind of shooting ourselves in the foot. I believe we're looking at a whole other document with regulations, which I think the parking would go into, because we don't talk about anything about the security of the facility at all. So you're going to see, at least from what I understand, you're going to see another document that's going to be probably as long as this, that's going to tell everybody exactly what they need to do. So keep an eye out for the regulations on the facilities, as well as the different types of permits. The fee structure is going to be a moving target for the next couple months. I imagine it's going to take a while for anybody to actually get a permit. So I think we have a little bit of time to nail that down, and any help from a RFQ would be nice, because we have numbers from different entities, and then we have numbers from the industry about what they'd like to see, and we probably need to be somewhere in the middle so that we can maximize the economic development that comes from this, while taking care of the costs that the city takes on in this endeavor. I really appreciate everybody's input on this. It's been kind of a beast to take this on. It was, when we started back in February, I didn't think it was going to be this difficult, but like I said, it's a change every week. It's a new comment every week. I met with a lot of the people who spoke today, and they didn't say anything about the things they brought up today. So that kind of tells you that we're moving very quickly. At least the industry is moving quickly in getting these things worked out. I'm excited. Honestly, I'm tired. I'm tired from all the work and the reading on this. 42 revisions and making sure that we have the right document, because that is a surprisingly big issue when you're making this many revisions, that the wrong one might just end up in the agenda. But it looks good. It looks good. So the conversation, even if we do go ahead and move forward with this first reading and passing it, the conversation is going to continue for months and months to go. So I appreciate everybody's help on this.
Just want to say I want to thank Councilmember Clower and Councilmember Friend for putting so much work into making this come together and doing so much research to make sure we're putting together something that really works, and everybody's help for their input. My concerns were we might have been moving too quickly here, but it's good to hear that we're at a point now where we're working out the small details. That's always a good sign. So I want to thank everyone here that participated in these conversations, and again, the ad hoc committee for the work they did, and the staff. Looking forward to having this work in a positive way, and as Councilmember Gomez pointed out, in 6 months we can look at things we have to change. And judging by the people here tonight, I can see you're all very good people and very mellow and very calm. So thank you again for all your time. Councilmember Clower,
yeah, just one more note. Just as want to let everybody know, we did change the zoning a little bit. There were some zoning districts that were added in, and I believe that the idea was to put a little bit more of the onus on the permitting process, because when you look at the zoning districts that we have, you have 2 properties that look very similar right next to each other, but one may be in one zone and another might be in another zone. So instead of excluding people from the outset, we tried to include as much as possible, and it'll be more of a property by property basis when you go through the permitting process. So if you looked at the last revision, make sure you read this one through because there's some new additions in there.
Okay. With that being said, is there a motion, Mr. Clower?
I will move to introduce the ordinance, read by title only. Do I have to say the last part? Hold public hearing. All in number 2 and number 3.
Ordinance number 1131.
Ordinance number 1131.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much, everyone. We will now move on to item 61, reports from city council members. I'll give everybody a couple minutes to clear out.
You know you want to leave too. Come on, man.
Just can't get up. All right, we'll move to item 61, report from city council members regarding their committees. Councilmember Luna.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I attended on Wednesday, the 15th, I attended the Area Agency on Aging, and Pauline Valdivia attended with me in San Juan Bautista. It was an interesting meeting. There was representatives from the Tri-County area. A lot of issues came up regarding our senior citizens and recommendations, and I didn't realize how strong this group was when it comes down to the issues that they take care of, for the aging. And so it was interesting enough, and so our next meeting is going to be in August. So I wanted just to report on that.
Thank you. Councilmember Gomez.
Yeah, I attended COG, and we played the violin for about a half hour. Everybody cried and talked about how it sucked that Measure P didn't pass. That was it.
Councilmember Clower?
Nothing to report.
Okay, Councilmember Gomez covered my report also. We will move to informational reports from City Council. Councilmember Luna?
Thank you. I had the honor of attending Helen Chavez's services, and I know that during the last meeting we adjourned in her memory, and I did mention that to the family. And Mr. Mayor, Paul Chavez wants to thank you and the City Council for doing that on behalf of his mom. So it was just a lot of people there. Many people from Hollister, and we had some really good talks and memories of Helen actually being here in Hollister from time to time. So I just wanted to mention that, and also I hope that tonight, as we adjourn our meeting, adjourn it in memory of all Orlando, Florida, and all the victims and their families.
Vice Mayor Gomez.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The only thing I want to report out is I attended the air show over the weekend, and it was a great event, and I appreciate all of city staff, their involvement, and their activity out there during the show. I thought it was a great event. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Clower.
I'd just like to wish a belated Happy Father's Day to all the gentlemen out there, whether natural fathers, surrogate fathers, stepfathers, the guy who lives next door but helps everybody out. Being dad's not easy, and I think over the last 10 months I've kind of learned to appreciate that a little bit more. So you don't necessarily have to be somebody's dad to be, or father to be kind of their dad, so it's kind of neat. Appreciate that. Also, just want to find out if the dog park is going to be on the Planning Commission agenda.
Without having Christine here this evening, I know that she was taking a poll on the council members and the Park and Recreation Commission for Tuesday, the 28th. Okay. And so I'm not sure if she's heard back from everybody, but first thing in the morning, I'll have her send out a confirmation email to you folks and to the Park and Recreation Commissioners. And the agenda was sort of set up where we would have a conversation, as the mayor requested, to go over goals and policies of the Park and Recreation Commission, what the council is expecting from them, and then we can have an item on the dog park, and we may actually even throw on the skateboard park for Dunn Park, because as you know, that's gotten some attention and a little bit contentious, and sometimes it's one of those things where I don't know how far we want to make people get them frustrated when we're supposed to be doing the good things. So we may have that on there as well. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. I received a request from the county health department, or Health and Human Services, for a letter of support. They're looking to apply for funding for the state for a new program, the Whole Person Care Pilot Initiative. At this point, what they're asking for is a letter of support, and if they do receive the funding, they will be coming back and asking if we could support them financially. But at this point, it's just a letter of support so they can move through the process of trying to get funding for this program, which is basically another step to the homeless issue of, as they're going through the shelter, to give them treatment, so hopefully they don't come back through the system and they make their way through as far as the mental services, the medical services, job training, and so on, to lessen the number of homeless we have in our community. So at this point, what they're looking for is, again, just a letter of support. And if that's all right with the city council, we can do that. It's up to all of you. Okay? All right. The city manager.
Only one quick thing to report. This evening, today, June 20th, Brian Swanson is our new Development Services Director. Today was his first day. Some of you got the opportunity to meet him. He will be here at City Hall with me for the next few weeks as we get him acclimated, and then we're going to turn him loose. But I will make sure that everybody gets a chance to spend some time with him. He's quite enjoyable, I promise. So.
Excellent. Thank you. City Attorney.
I have a report, actually. I just wanted to remind everybody here tonight and on TV that this weekend is the Saddle Horse Show, and it's a really cool event, and lots of stuff going on. It's not just guys in hats riding horses and bulls. It's a family event, and I'm on the 33rd Agricultural District, which runs the fairgrounds, and we like to get people out there and see what the fairgrounds has to offer. That's it.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you for stealing my thunder.
Julie stole mine on the parade.
Ravella. Yes, we are having an event. I am a director of the San Benito County Saddle Horse Show Rodeo, and it's going to be a great year. This year on Friday, we actually have a little more events prior to the rodeo, so the events will start about 4 o'clock, and then on to Saturday, where the actual horse show is at 9 a.m., and the event itself is at 1:30. And then, of course, we'll have a repeat show on Sunday. Our queen this year is Audrey Little, and we watched the competition last Saturday. It was great, and hopefully folks got to see the memorial roping last weekend as well. Anyway, that's it for me.
Okay. City Clerk?
I have no report.
All right, thank you. We'll move to item 71. The water issue we discussed the last meeting.
Thank you, Mayor. I tried to make sure that Sean was maybe available from the Sean Novak. I apologize, from the Water Resources Agency. He wasn't available, but I would like to again have the council consider adopting this resolution. The resolution is basically an agreement between the 4 water agencies, or 3 water agencies, and the city of San Juan Bautista. As you know, last year the state came down with some mandatory water conservation efforts. They amended those conservation efforts May of this year, and reduced the amount of conservation in the city of Hollister and the surrounding areas from around 25 to 28%, depending on what district you're in, down to 15. What this will allow is essentially it'll add a third day of watering for those folks who have lawns, and the idea behind it is everything is sort of going back to 2013 sort of water usage and numbers. All the districts have sort of agreed that that's an appropriate number. They've also agreed that that goal is still easily obtainable, just because practices over the last couple of years has gotten people sort of used to taking those water conservation efforts. So we really exceeded, especially in the city of Hollister and Sunny Slope County Water District. We met those numbers relatively easy. Some believe that it's the cost of water, as some people have mentioned here. That's kind of a conservation goal in and of itself. But moving forward, they'd like to get these notices out in the paper again as soon as possible, and ensure that, as one member of the council said before, is when you have Sunny Slope County Water District who's considering the same resolution adjacent or across the street from the city of Hollister, the idea is just to be consistent in sort of the efforts. So with that said, if there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to try to answer them. If you wanted to table it again until Sean is back, we can do that. But they were wanting to try to get the notices out this month in light of the summer months. So,
okay. Are there any questions from council? Do we have any comment cards?
No, sir.
Okay. Bill, on the new homes, have we gone to the zero-scape yet for the front yards? Or are we still giving the option?
Most new homes, there is not a requirement for there to be zero-scape, but what there are is state mandates that require the type of irrigation systems you can have. So the micro sprays almost prohibit the use of any sort of turf areas. So that's why most of the new homes that you see constructed right now have the artificial or field turf systems in place. So that's sort of the fallback position. So there hasn't been any ordinances or regulations adopted by the city or the state that says zero-scape, but the way that they have gotten there is by regulating the type of landscaping and sprinkler heads that we are allowed to use. So.
Okay, thank you.
And I would also say, as you know, most of the new homes today are constructed a lot different than back in the 70s and 80s and 90s, actually. And so the amount of water the amount of average water that's consumed at one of the newer houses is so much less than it typically was or was in the past. So.
All right. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve Resolution 2016-81.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Motion carries. Move forward to item 81. The voting delegates for the conference this year in Long Beach. Who's covering this?
Actually, this is a city clerk item, Mr. Mayor. The League of California Cities has asked us to ask you for at least one voting delegate who will be attending the conference. They keep a pretty tight leash on who votes on behalf of the cities.
Okay. Are any of our council members going to attend the meeting? I cannot make it this year. So,
Councilmember Friend is my choice. Then
are you? Is there? I think nobody else is going to be able to make it either.
Really?
I'm about 50% there. So if you want to appoint me, that's fine. It's not like we're gonna lose anything from it. So
Councilmember Friend can be backup.
What happens when you miss a meeting?
Okay, so we'll have to do move to.
We'll ask Councilmember Friend. If nobody else can make it, then I'll see if I can rearrange things to make it myself. But
so, what do we do? Say, designate Councilmember Gomez as the voting delegate and Councilmember Friend as the alternate. Does that sound good?
That sounds great.
Okay.
Okay.
Second.
Thanks. That's
Sounds like we have a choice.
We didn't need a motion on this, but this is just a recommendation. Okay. We'll move forward to item 82.
Oh, this
City clerk also?
This is clerk also. Mr. Mayor, you asked me to bring this item back to the council for possible action. This is regarding the changing of the term of mayor from its current 2-year term to a term of 4 years, and to put that on the upcoming consolidated presidential election ballot. And if you decide to put it on the ballot, we would suggest that the starting date on that term be January 1, 2019, to avoid the appearance of a conflict.
Okay. Any questions from council?
I do have a question. So I guess, well, you kind of answered my question. I mean, appearance of conflict, that's, I mean, we went through this. We went through this originally back in 2011-12 when we were discussing this. My concern is the year of election. So if we're going to be asking the voters this year, you're saying that whoever wins this election for mayor would only serve 2 years.
That's right.
And then the following one. Yeah, and I kind of, right. And thank you for that clarification. If that's the case, I won't be able to support this. I think that, presidential years are, obviously we're going to get a significant amount of voters coming out, and I think that's the best opportunity for us for our voting population to make their voice heard. So I can't support it being implemented in 2018. I can't support it if it would be implemented in 2016 for this upcoming election. Those are just kind of my thoughts.
Councilmember Gomez, I think that I'm not exactly sure about this, Paul, but I don't think we can have a mayor elected to a term, or anyone elected to a term of office that is subject to change.
We did request that in 2012, though.
Yeah, in 2012, when the voters voted on the mayor, they also voted on whether or not it would be a 2 or a 4 year term.
That's correct. And they decided on 2, and they went with 2.
But they voted on but it was a whole new thing. They were voting on a mayor citywide, and they were also voting on the term of office, correct?
Right. The office had been created, and they were selecting a candidate and the term.
So what we're doing now is only changing the term. We still have a mayor by...
It's the same thing, isn't it?
We're changing the term and electing the mayor at the same time. Is it any different from 11-12?
What about when you think of the fact that we were deciding whether or not we wanted to have the treasurer position while electing a treasurer?
Right.
So I think if you can get rid of a position while you're electing somebody, you can probably do this, I would imagine. Which we may want to talk about later on at another date.
Well, I thought maybe...
Not here today.
I think we're trying not to confuse the voters. It's going to be a big ballot. And if the election code will allow us to do it, I'm fine doing it. I just need to talk to our election attorney and before I can find out tomorrow morning.
When's the deadline, Tom? Do you know when the deadline is to have?
August 12th.
It is August 12th.
So we have
1 meeting to consider it.
Right.
Or 2 meetings.
1 meeting.
1.
I'd like to make a comment on that also, on this item, is that, I think we have to all consider the fact that we have a very important item on the ballot this year regarding the measure. if we are going to go out there and possibly confuse some of the voters, and, are they going to be voting on one item for the city, or they'll be voting for two items in the city? And it was confusing at the beginning when we first went from appointed mayor to elected mayor. I personally received a lot of phone calls. I was not on the city council, but there was a lot of phone calls wondering if there was a term limit, and apparently there was not. It was passed with the mayor serving a 2-year term. It did not estimate as to how many years a mayor could serve. So at this point in time, I cannot agree with this either. I'm just feeling that, I think that we have a very important item on the ballot, and we just need to really move on that. And hopefully that the voters will read that very carefully and the impact it will have on this city. Thank you.
Councilmember Clower.
How close was the vote for 2-year, 4-year?
Oh, that's a great question.
It just seems like okay, before I say what I'm going to say, my personal opinion is yes, yes, and yes on A, B, and C in regards to should it be changed from 2-year to 4-year? Should it be put on this ballot? Yes. Should it happen in 2018? Yes. But it seems like the electorate already voted on this 4 years ago. If they were deciding 2 or 4, I know at least for my personal opinion, from a practical perspective, it helps if we have, I think it would help if we had a 4-year term mayor. I think it would make it easier as a council to interact.
If you want to staff, I think, and this is really just a policy issue, and I think I wasn't as involved in with going through that race and when we redistricted and when we went to a mayor at large, but I would also tend to agree that I don't know if it's necessarily, and I don't take this the wrong way, fair, but to have a mayor should serve shorter terms than a council person. Our mayor right now, the way they're running it is he's up every 2 years, and a council person from a particular district is 4 years. I believe that it's probably at least should be somewhat the same in how they're spread out, and also for the selfish reason, as I've always said, is that going through the process and potentially having 3 candidates on a 5-person council every 2 years, where you can have wholesale changes in the direction of the city, isn't necessarily healthy for the city. Not that would ever really happen, but it doesn't take much, at your level to start changing policy and change, total change of policy every 2 years. I think can be detrimental to some extent.
And I don't know to what extent this is, but I think it's a disincentive for somebody to run for mayor if it's a 2-year term, because they have to run for mayor every 2 years, even though they get the same vote as the council members who only have to run every 4 years. Mr. Mayor?
I think I would say, as Bill was describing, there's a lot of things to be thought through, because it's difficult in the way of 2 years. I'm fine doing it, but it creates the potential of a problem, and it creates an issue of not knowing where we're going to be in 2 years or 3 years, and trying to follow through with projects we're all working on. A lot of these things take time. One of the best examples I can give is the budget. 3 years ago, we were scratching to survive, and now we had a report of where we're at. But that's still a 10-year project. Not that I want to be here for 10 years, but it's a long project, and it takes a lot of work as a team. It does make it difficult, but the voters decided. I think you give them the option. If they want to stay with 2 years, they stay with 2 years. If they want to go with 4, I think at the time this was put out, I think that a lot of people were confused on the matter, I think most people at the time thought it was an elected mayor as it was. So I think that's what is part of the confusion. I think if you can just put it out there as a 4-year term, as all the other council members have, I think Councilmember Gomez is correct. This is a presidential year. This is when you can get the most voters coming out to voice their opinion. This would be the time to do it.
So, may I suggest that you as a council, you pass A, B, and C with a yes, and on C that you say be voted on in the November 6, 2016 consolidated presidential election with a successful candidate starting on the date of January 1, 2017, if allowable by law, or, and then the way that I have it in here, if we can.
Councilmember Clark.
Just from a procedural perspective, if we're going to have a vote on putting it on and having the next mayor serve a 4-year term, should the current mayor, who I imagine is running for re-election based off of things I've seen, vote on that item? Does it not matter? I don't know. It seems like a question that may come up.
He would be voting on whether or not to put this on the ballot for the electorate to decide.
As a city member,
maybe
of the
not
council.
even the mayor. What if one of us was going to run for it? Should we even be voting on it if we know that we're going to?
Well, you're not making a final decision on the change of term itself. You're taking a vote on whether or not it should be on the agenda, on the ballot. I keep saying the agenda. That's like the 3rd time I've done that. I don't think that's a conflict of interest because you're not participating in the final decision of whether or not the term is going to be changed. But that's an item that we can ask the FPPC for clarification on. The perception of a conflict is oftentimes more powerful than a conflict itself, and so if there is a concern about it, then we could have we can have the mayor recuse himself. But at this point, he's voting on putting an item on the ballot for the voters to determine.
That makes sense. I guess my only concern is if I thought about it in 2 minutes, that somebody else will have the same concern.
Right.
But I don't necessarily think that that anybody should recuse themselves from it because it's separate from what's actually going to happen.
Right.
Starting to lose it up here.
Taking action before somebody actually has to declare. So, all 5 of you could technically be running for mayor in November.
I have a question, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Why is the starting date January 1st of whatever year if it's normally the first Monday in December?
Oh, that's entirely my error.
You're just accustomed to it from another bigger city north of
Yes,
here?
sir, I am, actually.
That makes sense. That's exactly what happens, yeah. Yeah, so, if that's the desire of the council, I'm totally fine with it. Publicly, and I made this public 4 years ago, I supported a 4-year term for mayor. I think it's for the sake of consistency and for other reasons. For some reason, whether it's a 2-year term for mayor or a 2-year term for assembly, for some reason the second year of an elected official's work tends to be a little bit more funny. On the second year they're running for office, some decisions are made that wouldn't necessarily be made if they weren't running for re-election. And as funny as that sounds, that's a concern of mine. So, if we could make that change, I would support A and B and just make the change of it should be voted upon November 8th, 2016, and to go into effect whatever the first Monday is in December of 2016 as well, if that's the desire of the council. If not, I could wait another 4 years. I'm fine with it.
I agree with Councilmember Gomez.
Okay. So there's almost a consensus, I believe, on this. So
I don't agree.
Okay. But we'll go ahead and move forward as Councilmember Gomez pointed out. Okay. Thank you very much. Item J, K, there is no business, and tonight, if we can adjourn in memory of all those that lost their lives in Orlando, Florida.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone.